G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Based in Sydney, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Lucy.
No worries. I'm really excited.
Let's start with how we know each other. Dean from Podcast Connection put us in touch. They've sent us a few great guests. I'm sure you're not going to disappoint today.
Yes, I definitely will not. They are such an amazing group of people.
And tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
So we have a company called 10,000 Customers, and we've had a lot of evolutions in this company. But basically where we're at now is we are an agency that specializes in product launches and marketing campaigns. And we have basically figured out a way to manufacture more and more and more money on a 28-day cycle. So guaranteed baseline sale increases no matter what.
And do you have any niches you specifically work with?
Yeah, so we really specialize in product companies. That's my background. But we essentially work with anyone that sells a luxury or premium service. So even if that doesn't mean, $120,000 handbag, that's fine. If you're the most expensive bricklayer, then we can help you bring more people in and grow your business.
That's good. That's a really smart niche to carve out and own and become a master at.
Yeah, we really enjoy it. There's so many different angles that you can play with when you are a premium service. And it's fun telling the story about why you warrant that price point.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And how did you start out?
Good question. I started building websites when I was 10 years old. I was a nerdy. Yeah, exactly.
I started coding when I was 10. My parents gave me a Commodore 64, so I'm also a nerd.
Great, perfect. Like attracts like.
Yep.
So I started building websites when I was 10 years old. I had an obsession with making things. I got my first few freelance jobs when I was 14. And then from there, I just went on and continued down that path. I temporarily studied at university. That did not last long because I got a job with a cybersecurity company in the US. And we worked with some of the biggest banks, companies, Sony, ING, Bank West, protecting your data and doing that. And then, of course, like any millennial, I got extremely bored of the comfort of that job and decided to start my first company, which is when I started my skincare business. And then from there, went into coaching and consulting and agency.
Great. And so what year did you start the skincare business and how old were you and what was the name of that?
So 2015, when I was 23, the company was called Trefiel. Worst mistake calling it that because no one could say it, no one could spell it, no one had any idea what to do with it. So that's how that all started. So many lessons with that business.
And what ended up happening with that business?
So wild story. I didn't know anything about online marketing at that point. I basically just knew how to build websites, and we took it from 0 to 10,000 customers in 18 months. Had a team of 10, really amazing business. And then because of a series of mistakes that we made in that fast growth process, we actually ran out of money and we decided not to go ahead with another round of inventory, and we shut shop and walked away.
Wow. And then you took all that experience to start up the coaching and now the agency?
Yeah, correct. So then I realized that actually, well, first and foremost, I know a lot about growing online businesses. Like that is valuable to a lot of people. But I now also knew a lot about how not to grow them and how not to run your company into the ground. So we went and started teaching
just
people.
as important, because one of my favorite sayings is success is a poor teacher.
Yes, exactly. So we went and I did a coaching company for about 3 years. And on the back end, we had agency for our high level clients. And then at the end of last year, we decided to go all in on agency and our speciality.
Great. So then that was the end of 2022.
Mhm.
So what year did you shut down the skincare business and focus on the coaching?
2017.
Yep.
And then the coaching started in 2018.
Got it. Great.
Yeah.
And do you have any key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of business? 10,000 customers?
Yes. So I seem to have a habit or a pattern of growing pretty quickly. I basically took that company from 0 to 50 grand a month in 5 months. I was selling five to $20,000 packages over the phone. Worked with really amazing consultants to learn that skill. And then that business went from 0 to $500,000 in 18 months. So again, really fast when you think about like the volume of clients and the lack of infrastructure and everything. There was a lot of sales coming in.
Yep. Fantastic.
Mm.
What about number of team members you started on your own, and what did you grow roughly the full-time equivalents to?
Yeah, so with the skincare business, we got up to 10, including the two co-founders, myself and my co-founder. And then in the coaching company, I actually kept it really lean, which I think is part of the problem with like handling that kind of growth. But the agency at one point had 10 people working in it.
Yep.
And now we're on the fun journey of going in the other direction with that.
Yeah, so streamlining, automating.
Yeah, we're building a proprietary software and system for basically the way that I describe it is Canva for marketing campaigns.
Right.
So, yeah, like attempting to get rid of the staff associated with producing marketing campaigns and just have software doing everything.
Yep. Fantastic.
Mhm.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Uh, hmm. I think there's been so many little moments. Obviously, reaching peak revenue goals, doing our first 100 grand month, that was really cool. Things like that. But also, I would say I often feel successful when I get a new piece of, systemization in place and I solve something really difficult that jingles my jangles. Yeah.
And what does success look like to you?
Oh, this has changed so much for me. I used to think that it was all about money and the growth of the company. And then I switched to profit. And now I've completely changed it altogether. And I think it's time. The less I have to work, the better.
Yep.
I like that. And it's not that I'm not working, but I don't want to spend as much time opsing or, being stuck in the trenches. I want to do my best work from above, and I'd like to do it in 7 hours or less.
Yep.
Yeah,
A week or a day?
a week.
Almost Tim, you're almost Tim Ferriss to your business then.
I know.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business? Perfect question.
Marketing a fast growing business. I was actually listening to one of your other podcasts with Omniprint,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was.
Yep, Victor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I loved what he was talking about with operational stop points, because sometimes I think that when you're marketing a fast growing business, you're actually doing more harm than good. But I would say that what I've learned about making and manufacturing money online is getting $1 million of sales is so much easier than getting 100 grand of sales, because how you actually get $1 million is just repeating over and over and over again the most boring thing that is the most effective, and getting rid of everything else. Like, we've built so many really successful product companies finding something that produced 10 grand and turning it into 100, or finding something that produced 100 and turning it into 1 million. So definitely, if you've got something that's growing fast and you've got a particular strategy that's working, just double down on that and repeat it until it's so boring you could cry.
Never heard anyone describe it that way. And how did you fund your business?
Cash.
Yeah.
All cash, all made from sales. When I got out of cybersecurity, I had a small nest egg and I put that into buying inventory, and then I hustled.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Ooh, well, Kind of. I guess I wouldn't, if I had $1 million of funding or something like that, I would be going all in on the software. I wouldn't be running an agency for
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so audience can learn from it?
Yeah. Related to fast growth, not, I used to think about growth in terms of just the volume of sales and cash coming in. But obviously, there is an operational and delivery cost associated with those sales. So when I think about growth now, I often think about it relative to what capacity we have to deliver. And if it's not actually what we can deliver, then the real growth comes from the capacity building so that we can then go and sell it. And I rarely grow businesses, even my own, the way I used to. I pretty much always grow by maybe 25%, but no more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good number. I think it was in the Jim Collins book I was listening to recently, Good by Choice. He was talking about that, the 20,000 mile march, just being consistent, don't go sprinting. And he uses the analogy of the race to the Antarctic where Scott died, but they were doing sprints every couple of days as opposed to the Norwegians who were just trotting along every day doing it. And what you said before about Victor from Omniprint, really good example of pausing sales and marketing to let the business and the capabilities catch up, not just systems and processes, but adding to the team to get to the next level, ready to take on that next stratosphere of growth. That's very, very, very smart.
Yeah, one of my friends and I always have this conversation because we both come from, coaches, consultants, advice that's been just make sales all the time. And sometimes that is good, but a lot of the time it's not actually good. You mostly need to grow the capacity so that you can grow the sales.
Yep.
Yeah.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are very, very good at telling stories and making sales and marketing. I feel like that is mostly an innate skill. But as I was speaking to before about marketing a fast growing business, the systems and capacity to deliver what's being sold and promised is just as important. And I would say that figuring out how to deliver what we deliver and do it without fault has been the most valuable thing, because most of the time when customers get upset, it's because their expectations weren't met. And expectations from your side of things, my side of things, are fall downs in the system, or someone was, supposed to be responsible and they weren't, or they forgot, or whatever. So yeah, making the system faultless has been the most valuable thing and dropped everyone's stress, including the clients.
Yep.
Yeah.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Everything, all of it. Every single second of it.
Which is why you've tempered now the growth rate around that 25%. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate the sleepless nights. I hate working 7 days a week. I hate we're having to work 9 hours a day. It's not that I don't want to. I often work more than 7 hours a week, just for anyone listening. But I don't want to have to. And I don't like having to do 12-hour days, 14-hour days to manage a shitstorm. I'm just going to be honest. I don't like how unhappy people get. It's just not, it's not it.
Well, the 4-day-a-week movement was really accelerated from COVID. I'm seeing a lot of that in the media these days. Even in Australia, there's a lot of businesses, small and large, trialing it, and some have moved permanently to it. So I think it's a good, and also with the confluence, obviously, of AI, with ChatGPT late last year coming out, there could be that nirvana reached a lot sooner where people are working more sustainable and reasonable hours, including business owners.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like growth as well, it trashes your body and it's just not good for anyone involved in the company. We've lost so many good people because we were growing too fast, and that is clients and staff. So no, not into it.
Yeah. What do you love most about growing a small business?
It's fun. It's really fun. I was actually thinking about the history of my business career recently and how I haven't actually stuck to anything. We left the skincare business after 2 years. The coaching has evolved into agency, and the agency is evolving into software. But I really enjoy figuring out the mechanism for essentially manufacturing that growth and producing money in whatever way a business needs it produced. Until it gets so boring that I decide, you know what, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
And this is why you need good ops people so that they can keep doing it.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're the visionary and you need an integrator to run the show.
Yeah, exactly.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Dropping the fast growth. Yeah, that took a little while. That took a couple of businesses to really get my head wrapped around, because it's sexy and because everyone talks about, everyone measures businesses, especially in the online world, based on how much revenue they're doing. And especially in e-com and D2C, it's all about, well, are you a $10 million brand? Are you a $100 million brand? What are you? So finally letting go of that and actually building a really great business, I would say, has been the absolute best thing.
Well, 25% growth per annum is still very fast, Lucy. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it is.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I really resonated with what your CEO of Omniprint was saying about the finding people that have had success in the areas that you want them to. When I'm looking for coaching, consulting, advice, training, development, whatever it is, I'm always thinking about what problem I'm trying to solve at the moment. And yeah, finding the right person that's actually solved the problem that you solved. I think that's such a key way to get the leg up that you're looking for. And yeah, moving on when it's time as well. No need to stay longer than you need to.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growasmallbusiness.com.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes and advice for those listening?
Oh yeah. Boy, oh boy. Hiring to handle growth is a bad idea. You're better off reversing the growth than not. I don't believe that anyone should come in. It's taken me a long time to get that. Before we would be in a rush and we'd be like, shit, we need to hire like right now.
Yeah.
Let's get people in. I think figuring out how to actually vet people and go slowly with that process is absolutely critical. So much damage has been done, and I can only speak for my businesses, but so much damage has been done just randomly putting people in to solve a problem. And yeah, learning to slow that down and also build tests into the hiring. Another one of my friends and I talk about this a lot. How do you set up a trap in a nice way in the interview process so that you get people to reveal who they are? And either way is fine, but we need to see how they respond. So for example, one of my friends has a service business in the pet care industry, and she needs to have people that are very adaptable and can just basically drop anything and go right now and fix that problem with that dog. And in the interviewing, we helped her to design a test where you would just randomly throw out this thing at the end of the call where you'd be like, oh, I just had this crazy idea. Can you do this for me right now? And seeing how people respond, because that's a pretty good indicator of whether they will be responsive once they're in the team.
That's good. That's really, really smart. Going upstream, understanding what's a core competency or trait that's needed in that role. If that's really important for that business, then why wouldn't you test for it in the interviewing? Exactly.
Yeah, correct. And I think that's so important. Another trait that they particularly needed in their staffing was yes people. People that aren't going to say, "Oh no, I can't do that," because it's an immediate thing. If a dog needs to get picked up, it needs to get picked up right now. So are you going to say yes all the time? And how do you test for that? I love coming up with those scenarios and situations and doing it in a way that they don't think that you're asking them something. It's just like a general, "Oh, can you do this for me?" and seeing who they are.
Yep. I'll
Mm.
give a quick shout out with the business here in Australia that I work with. Scott, I know he listens to 2 or 3 episodes a day going through the back catalogue. I thought this was really genius because they hire, because it's law, they need attention to detail needs to be really clear. And for some of their roles, they have some roles offshore, administration, etc. But still needs high attention to detail because it's a very serious sector, migration visas. And so in the job ad, near the end, it says how to apply. And one of the instructions is in your submission in the title, please put the word kangaroo in. And so he can easily cull anyone that has not paid attention to that because they're just spraying for any job at all. And I thought that was really clever. Good way to cut down a lot of the people that are less serious.
I love little things like that. And I think it comes back to that operational elegance, right? Because the more that you refine that process, the easier it is to get the people to self-select in or out based on their who they truly are and who they are when they don't think that you're asking them an interviewing question, but who they are as a response to stimulus. Perfect.
Yep. Another guest told me he deliberately puts spelling errors in the job ad because he wants those people that are that fanatical about, no, oh, by the way, there's 3 grammatical errors in this, and they really stand out. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I need to use that.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think it comes back to the testing in the interview phase because I think it depends on what your values are with a kick-ass culture. Obviously, different companies have different values, so those tests will look different. But ultimately, everyone needs to be a team player and moving towards the same direction. And the ability to link arms is so, so, so important. You can't have superstars who are terrible to work with in a team and in
Otherwise
a
known as
company.
assholes. They can be the
Yeah,
best. They can be the number
correct.
one salesperson in the team. If they're an asshole, I don't want to work with them.
Correct. Yes. So, and it's interesting. I've been having a lot of conversations with different people around how do you actually find team players, and I think it's one of those things. I personally haven't found a specific test that necessarily works really, really well. But perhaps there must be something because when I do interview people, I generally have a sense based on the way that they talk about certain situations in the past. Like, for example, if someone has worked at a previous company that I know that they have team and or let's say it's another agency. So agency, deadlines, pressure. What's that like? Like, oh my God, you must always like, deal with crunchy situations. How do you handle that? I feel like those kinds of questions, usually, even if they're trying to impress you or give you an answer, there is some kind of thread in there that will reveal whether they link arms with people or whether they fight it on their own.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree. There's one a guest told me about the test projects they give out. I don't know if you do this, but this is not in during the interview. It's before the interview because a lot of people, half the people won't even send in their tests. A quarter will miss the deadline. So you got 75% already cut and you're down to the last 25%. But yeah, that would be very tough test for such as that they can, work through under pressure, change very quick decision making, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I heard about was a CEO of a very large finance company in America. He'd get down to his last 2 or 3 candidates. This is more about, I guess, cultural fit. Are they going to, I guess, be good people to work with and treat people well? And he'd take them just to a shitty little diner down the road from the office when he got it down to the last 2 or 3. And he knew the manager or the owner, and he would set it up so the wait staff would stuff up the candidate's order, and the CEO would wait and see how they reacted to that. If they, if they were really pleasant about it, or if they were dismissive, or even a little bit nasty about it, then that was really telling to say that this person potentially could be an arsehole.
I love that. And I think that's such an interesting application as well if you're hiring leadership, because I can see how if you were hiring for a role that was further down in a company hierarchy, then there are certain situations where they're just going to be pleasant because that's what's expected and they're already in that dynamic with you. But can you imagine doing that with someone that was in a leadership position? That's an interesting test.
Yeah,
I like that one.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd say is I don't know how much time you're doing per interview or per candidate, sorry, but when you're down to the last candidates, but just a lot of business owners rush it, don't do anywhere near enough time. So it's the most important thing a manager does is recruitment, because you need to get A players on. But we are all time poor, obviously, but you've got to make it a priority. So what I would suggest is just to do a shitload more time with them, because then your gut's got more data points to make a decision whether they're the right fit or not.
Totally. And when you're growing really quickly, it's very, very, very difficult to honor that time.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right. Hello, audience. How you've handled balance?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I believe in that word. I don't know if it's actually possible, but what I do think about, especially now that I've given up the, hectic growth percentages, is I just go off how my body is telling me to deal with it. So if I'm wrecked, I'm not working until I feel good. And that's pretty much how I handle it. I
Yep.
just go off what my central nervous system says.
Yep. Now, you mentioned before you've had coaches. Have you had mentors or anything else on coaches you want to mention?
I think just going back to what I said about the solving a problem, sometimes have found so far that there are two kinds of business transactions in this space. There is, I'll be your friend while you walk through this so that you don't do it alone. And then there's, we're going to solve a problem in this period of time. And I'm not saying that, having someone to hold your hand and emotionally comfort you isn't valuable.